There you go, and welcome to the video. So this is something I've wanted to do for quite some time, like I'm talking a couple of years. I've wanted to do this project. Recently I was in Vietnam on a holiday and I got someone to go out and buy a poncho for me. Now I haven't opened this up, so I have no idea what they bought me. So I want to use this poncho to make a boat. What have I got? It does feel like rubber, or at least that does. Feel like a rubber. Well, I got myself a little bag to put gear in. Camo. Now there's the hood. What I've got to do is find somewhere where I don't have sticks and stuff on the ground that's going to punch holes in this thing before I make the boat. But I need to open this up. Obviously you've got to... It's appropriate that I've got a poncho because it's just started raining. Story of my life with these videos. If you've watched any of my videos, especially recent ones, you'll know every time I try to film it rains. My camera is not waterproof, so yeah. As I said, I've got to find some flat ground, so once the rain stops I'll take this somewhere else so I can lay it out flat and see exactly how big it is to know what I'm dealing with. But I'm going to get the camera out of the rain. Right, found myself a grassy area and it's just started raining again, so try to get this done pretty quick. So that's what I've got to deal with. So it's not real wide, that stitching around there. I don't know how waterproof that's going to be. So I might have water coming through my boat. The first thing I'll do, so that's just the cord that came with it. Just tie this on there as well. So the last thing you want is to be out on the water and have this knot on the hood come undone, and then you'd sink very rapidly, I reckon. That's the size I've got to deal with this boat. The length isn't a problem, the width is more of the issue. If I make it too narrow it's going to be pretty tippy. I've had that experience before. I know I can make my sides about that high. I've got to have room to lash them on as well. That's how wide my base can be. It's not going to be super long. It's going to be a little tub actually, but we'll see if that's all you need. That is going to be my length. Doesn't look like a long boat, but we'll see. This is called monkey vine. It's a bit of a weed. Strangles all these trees and runs rampant. I've used it before as a lashing on a primitive shelter that I've knocked together. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to utilise it because there's so much of it here. Use that to make the framework of the boat. Like everything on this channel, I don't like to do safe. I don't like to do the things that I know are going to work. Never done this before, never made this boat design, never made a boat with a poncho before, haven't researched it. I'm just going to wing it and see what I'll come up with. Ooh, that's a huge long piece there. So I got that lashed on there. That's going to be my stern, so the back end of the boat. So if I go back to my piece of cordage that I used to measure this whole thing, that knot there was the end of it. That's how long it's going to be. So that's how big my boat's going to be. That's going to look on there. The design that I wanted to do was kind of based on a coracle. Now when you think of coracles, you think of them being round, these round vessels in it, and you've got to do this weird sort of paddling action to move yourself along. But there's also coracles that they're just a wide boat and they curve up like a boat and you can carry them on your back. They still paddle in the same, but I have heard they did make them with rowlocks, so you could actually put two oars in it and row them. but they were still small enough you could strap them on your back. That's what this idea was. However, probably needs to be like another foot at least wide. So I don't know if this is going to be stable enough working with what I've got. This piece that I'm putting through the bottom here, it's in the center here, but you got this big bow, and as it goes through the water, that water is going to push along, and it's going to push harder on one side than the other, and then it's going to push in here, and it's going to do two things. It's going to slow me down as I'm trying to paddle through the water. It's going to be like an anchor to drag me back. But the other thing it's going to do is it's going to make me track all over the place, because that water is going to be constantly pushing it from side to side as I'm, yeah, I'll get used to it. After the first couple of paddles, I'll definitely be able to feel what's happening underneath me, and I'll know how much I've got to paddle more on one side than the other. But, rough and ready. Put that to the side for the minute. Every time I look at this thing, I'm just not happy with that piece in the bottom. That's just going to cause me so many problems. Put in all the effort to make it, just leave that one bit in the bottom there that's just average. It's going to do my head in. That's what I left these forks on here for, so I can put this back piece through that. Yeah, I really don't know about this monkey vine, this stuff. It's just like a root, which pretty much all it is. It's just a root with leaves coming out of it as it grows. Structurally, I don't know how it's going to go for what I'm using it for. Alright, she's looking pretty average at the moment. It's not an ideal material to work with, this monkey vine, but it's what I've committed to doing this project with. So I'm going to see it through and see what happens with it. Something like that. I was going to put some extra bracing in there, but I thought I'd just leave it and see what happens first, rather than spend the time to do it, and I didn't need to do it. But the moment of truth has arrived. I'm going to flip this thing over, see if I can fit the tarp on this thing, or if I've made my framework too big. Now, I also changed this, just letting you know that, I didn't film it. But you saw me tie that hood on before. I actually undid it all and turned it inside out and tied it on the other side. This side is now the inside of my boat. Let's see if it actually fits. You know what? I think I've made this thing perfect. Like, if it was any longer, it'd be no good. If it was any wider, or the sides were any steeper, then it'd be no good. So that thing's just gonna drive me nuts. When I put this thing in the water, I'm gonna put that in first, so it's gonna be further out in the water. It's gonna be the deep end. Starting to rain here, which isn't ideal for filming, but just using a small rock, trying to find one without any sharp edges, and then I'm just doing a constriction knot. I've still got more lashing to do on this thing, but I think I'm at a stage where I could flip it over and do all that from the other side. So yeah, turn it over and have our first look at this, what I'm now calling a boat. It's not too heavy. Now I've got to be super careful with it because I'm sitting on rocks and sticks and all sorts of stuff. I mean, it is a bit baggy. It's always going to be that way. Nothing's perfect. It's all different shapes and all that, so the material can't really conform, but when you put it in the water pressure will just push in on it and give it whatever shape it is. Alright, well, I'm going to call this boat done. I could lash some more on here and a bit more there and tidy up more and do all that sort of stuff, but it's at a stage where if it's going to work, it's going to work. I'm going to clear this area up so I can make myself a paddle. And it looks like it's going to rain any second too, so it's always fun to film in. I don't want to take any more out of there, just because it's going to weaken it too much as I'm digging into the water with it. It's got some really funky shape to it, but I think it'll work. What I got here in this little tin is some pine tar that I made, and you can check that out on another video that I did. You can see it, just solid in there. Reheat that. I'm going to use that to fix this gap in this handle. I could build a fire, I could use my ferro rod, light a fire. It's a lot easier to use a lighter to start with, a little Beck lighter here, and a candle. So it's a perfect size for my little can here. Right, this hasn't taken very long at all. It's still somewhat firm around the outside where the heat hasn't transferred out yet, but good enough for me to start working with. Spread this in really quickly, as you see, super quickly. Call this really dodgy looking paddle done. She's not real straight, but hopefully it's going to do the job. Now it's just a matter of whether the boat's going to do the job or if it's going to do a job on me. Alright, I think next time you see me I'll be down at the water. Grab the boat and see what happens. So we haven't had rain for a week. The river's cleaned up a bit, but the rain started again this morning at like literally an hour before I left home. I thought maybe it's a passing shower, so I come out here and now it's raining pretty solidly. So I can't get the camera out from underneath this tree. Even here it's getting soaked. Hello. I got the boat here beside me. But yeah, it's just, hopefully the rain is off. I've got to try to get further underneath these trees just to try to get all the gear out of the rain. Boat's filling up with water and it's not even in the river yet, so I got to do this quick because we just did a little window here, more rain coming. I'm soaked to the bone already. I haven't even put the boat in the water yet. And that's just from, had to walk across a paddock to the river. That was like a 300-400 metre walk through grass like this high. And then I get here and it's belting down rain on me. So I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to get the boat in the water, and then if that works and I've still got time, then I'll look at fishing. But I don't know how this is going to go. I got to get my boots off and yeah, hope this works. Right. She's in the water, putting on a PFD, personal flotation device. They've changed the laws where I am, and I do believe if I put this thing on the water, and even though it's only like a couple of feet deep here, if I put this thing on the water and I'm in it, I do believe I'm breaking the law if I don't have one of these on. So better to be safe than sorry. Biggest thing is I can't tell if there's any water coming into this because there's already water in it from being out in the rain. So I can't tell. No. Right, she's leaking where I left it on. So I'm going to take it for a quick spin and get it back in before it takes on too much water. I want to see if this thing's going to sink or not. Alright, I'm going to call this a fail. Yeah. After all that work and all that waiting for the rain and everything else, as soon as I got the weight in it, just went down too much. I had water starting to come over the back of it, as well as the water that's coming in through where the yeah, because as you can see, I've got down there in the middle is where I tied the hood up. All dressed up and nowhere to go. That's one of the biggest anticlimaxes of my life. I've literally waited 3 weeks to do that. Got this thing finished. I had really high expectations that it was going to work. But it just, yeah, I try and move forward as much as I could to try to get the balance right, but it just wasn't enough. I couldn't sit far enough forward to stop the water coming over the back end. It then got really tippy. I didn't have an option to make it wider because I'm just working with the poncho I've got. I can be rough with this thing now because it's all over. Already, just from dragging around and stuff, I've got a tear in that, so that's going to let water in real fast as well, even if it wasn't leaking through that hood. And there's another tear through there. All the places where it was in contact with the wood, when I put it in there and I've gone down, it's been resting on the rocks. That's just rubbed, and that was all she wrote. Not too concerned about the poncho. It didn't cost me anything actually, but it was really cheap from Vietnam, and yeah, it was bought for me. I asked someone to go out and get it, and they got it, but unfortunately I couldn't make it work. I don't know, if you put outriggers on it somehow to try to stabilise it, and that would keep it afloat more. But yeah, I think the best option would be to try to find a bigger poncho. Anyway, it's not going to be a complete waste. I'm going to grab the Bushcraft fishing lures. I'm going to have a bit of a flick here just because I'm keen to catch a fish on one of those. I did a video a little while ago on making Bushcraft fishing lures, and this is one of them. I used pine tar on it. If you want to check out that video, I'll put a link in the video description of this one. But this one, I didn't get to try it last time because the wire had pulled out. So I've put some sawdust mixed in with the pine tar and heated up. I'll try it out before the rain kicks in too much. It's pretty heavy. It's got a rock in it as well. Floats, dives, tracks well. Yep, hitting the bottom. So it's down probably maybe 3 feet. It doesn't really have a great deal to action, if I'm being completely honest. Look at that. The amount of time and effort I put into this thing. That's almost just as good. That's just a palm frond, base of a palm frond. So the frond would have been up there somewhere. So yeah, don't know how this works. Definitely know how this works though. No good. If you're wondering how much that weighs, I weighed it this morning before I come out here. It was 10.6 kilos, so I'll put that on the screen, how much that is in pounds, but I'm going to go fishing because I've got to salvage something of this day. I even brought the drone with me. I had these grand ideas that the boat was going to work perfectly. I was going to get out in the water, the rain was going to hold off, and I'd put the drone in the air and film myself paddling down the river in the boat, Poncho boat. However, it doesn't always end up how you have in your mind. So, ooh, man, you guys didn't see that, but I did. Holy hell! I don't know what that was. That was huge. Oh, I wonder if I did get that on camera. That thing was massive. I felt a bump on the line, whether it hit the lure or it hit the line. But then I see this big silvery sort of flash through the water. It would have been that big. I'm going to change over. I'm going to use a store-bought lure just because I want a shot at that, whatever the hell that was. It could have been a really big carp, in which case I'm not going to hook it on a lure. It was really decent, that fish. Oh my goodness, that thing was a monster. Monster, I tell ya, a monster. You know that feeling when you're rushing to do something, it just goes even slower? That was me just then. It's raining. Rushing to get this lure on. It's not a real heavy lure, so I can't cast it as far. I'm only going to have one flick because I've got to pack the camera and everything else away. If I get a fish on now, it's going to be, yeah, interesting. So after all that, I only get one cast and then I've got to pack up and go home. If you appreciate the videos I make and you know, my endeavouring to make good content for you, then yeah, give me a thumbs up. Watch my other videos. Hit subscribe if you haven't done so already. But I gotta go have a shower and a coffee, some breakfast, something. Cry. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Oh man.